Hi everyone, this is Julianne Victoria of Through the Peacock's Eyes. Welcome to my channel. So this video is a VR or a tag that's been going around called the 5 decks I can't live without. I don't think it necessarily has to be confined to tarot decks, but I chose to do that. So these are my top 5 tarot decks I can't live without, and there's actually 7, so it's not quite 5, or I guess there's 2 honorable mentions. It took a while for me to sort through my decks, which you can see there, to figure this out. And they're, I guess, my top 5 right now, and for various reasons, or top 7, right, for right now. So let's see what my top 5 are. Okay, so first, and I will say this is the top, as in number 1 is the Marielle Tarot. So I have both the first and the second edition. Here I'm holding the second edition because it's smaller and it's borderless and it shuffles beautifully. And so it's a thinner cardstock, and thinner cardstocks, it's never too thin, but they riffle shuffle beautifully. You can get that rhythm, that flow. So if you watched my video I made, How I Shuffle, that was another VR tag. You can see how I shuffle, and for me it's a meditative practice. So this isn't my top 5 just because of the shuffle, but I wanted to point that out. Like this second edition of the Marielle, and that's the back, same as the first, it just feels so good in my hands. Now it's my top of the top 5 because of the depth of the imagery and how deep I can go with this deck. So let's show you some of the images. You've probably seen me use this in some of my weeklies or in my new moon and full moon astro tarot scopes. So I love this deck. I even love, so this is one of the cards that was changed with the second edition. I love them in both, although the High Priestess of the first edition really just calls to my soul deeply. But I don't dislike the second edition one either. So this is the Marielle. Okay, so that's number 1. Now the other ones aren't particularly ranked. That's just the one that's definitely my top deck right now, and it has been for a while, and especially the second edition. The first edition was those very large, super shiny shiffer cards, and those are difficult to shuffle, difficult to handle because they're so big, but it was still like a top deck then. Okay, so next, let's do the Anima Mundi Tarot. So this is another one, or Anima Mundi, the world soul, or the soul of the world, of the universe. This deck speaks to me very deeply and psychologically as well. This is the back, and I'll show you the images. So it's plants and animals. It's not strictly an animal deck. It's not strictly a plant deck. But what I love most about this deck is that I go into the backgrounds. So there's the image, the meaning of the tarot card, but it's the background space, the negative space, that speaks to me most in this deck. Okay. All right. Next, let's do this one, or these 2. So these 2 decks, and I'm putting them together. We'll say this is, not necessarily ranked number 3, but the third one. I'm putting them together because they are, I put them in a similar category of like standard Rider-Waite-Smith tarot decks that I will pull out for any reading for a client or whatever. Or if I'm, often I think, okay, what deck do I want to use? What deck am I called to use for, a client reading, personal reading, YouTube reading? And if I'm not really pulled to any, I'll pull one of these 2 decks. So They are the Morgan Greer, and this box has been falling apart for a long time, and Hanson Roberts. Now Hanson Roberts, as you can see, is much smaller, and I love taking this with me when I travel. The Morgan Greer, these are the backs. Simple. This deck was published like originally, I think, in the 70s. It's been out a long time. So these are the cards. They're borderless, which I love. It gives very clear, straightforward readings. So this is sort of like a go-to deck when I'm not feeling drawn to use one of the many others with client readings. Or sometimes I'll have this deck out as sort of an adjunct deck if I want to pull a different deck, pull some cards from a different deck for a client reading. And then the Hanson Roberts. I love that they're a little smaller. They shuffle like a dream when they're a little smaller in my hands. Just your standard Rider-Waite-Smith, RWS. A good go-to deck. And I like the artwork in these two decks more than Pamela Coleman Smith's art in the standard Rider-Waite. Not that I dislike that, I just like these better. Okay. Okay, next. The next deck on my 5 decks I can't live without right now, I'll say it that way, because I'm sure it will change, is Tarot of the Hidden Realm. Now this feels, I would call it a fairy deck because they're like fairy creatures in it. I don't know if I put this deck in I have a video of my fairy decks. I might have forgotten this one. I have to go back and check. But this one, it speaks to my soul. It connects me, I think, to ancestral energy, especially my Celtic ancestry. So this is the back. And let's go through some of the cards here. Like, I feel these are people I've known or could have known. I mean, they're obviously fairy-like creatures, but they look like people I have known in past lives, through ancestral lines. Okay. And I would call this a non-traditional tarot deck. And then sort of tied with Tarot of the Hidden Realms, because it's similar, it's a fairy deck as well, is the Mystic Fairy Tarot. And this is actually the deck I have owned the longest. So I recently did like a massive giveaway to my newsletter subscribers, and anyone can sign up for that. So if you're interested in my specials and giveaways, check out that. But I will be doing a giveaway on YouTube. I might record that video after this one. And so this is now the deck I have owned the longest because I gave some very old decks away. I gave some newer decks away. So this is the back of the Mystic Fairy. And this one kind of spoke to my soul, much like the Tarot of the Hidden Realms does. But I've had this one much longer. So they're kind of tied for my top 5. So show you some of the images here. Very different feel and artwork with this deck, but there's something about these two fairy ones that really stir something up inside me. I love this Death card. So this is the Mystic Fairy Tarot, and you can see how well worn this deck is. It doesn't even lay flat anymore from so much shuffling. Because I had that back when I only had like a few decks, so it was really used. And then lastly, but very much not least, and this deck is one that I will never be able to live without because I created it myself, and it's my children's tarot. This is one of the coloring book covers. This is the back. This is a majors only deck for children, and I have a video I did for it. I'll link it on screen here towards the end of this one, as well as in the comments below. And I'm just so loving, so happy about how this deck turned out. It is a modern tarot deck. It's full of diversity. People who have used it, have adults who have used it, have been so happy about it. Natalie at Sanskrit Blue is going to be doing a review. She's been posting on Instagram about it. So this is definitely a deck I can't live without. My toddler's been, well, playing with it right now because she's not even 2. But she loves the deck. Her friend loves the deck. I'm loving it. Yeah, I'm just so happy at how it's turned out, happier than I thought I would be. And so I created this deck. I will be living with it and loving it for the rest of my life. Okay, those are my top 5 tarot decks, 5-ish, 7, that I can't live without. Hop on, join this fun tag, this VR. Yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, and I'll see you back here soon.